I covered my face with a cap and sunglasses. I didn't want anyone to recognize me because today I wasn't a prince. I wasn't a businessman. Today I was only a man who had realized his mistake far too late. When boarding was announced, my steps suddenly felt heavy. With every step, your last words echoed inside my heart. The day you finally realized my worth, I might already be too far away. Baby, you were right. You had gone far away. And today, I was flying from Dubai to America, holding on to one small hope that maybe it wasn't too late. I took my seat. The aircraft slowly moved toward the runway. I looked out of the window. The lights of Dubai became smaller and smaller. I closed my eyes and whispered one silent prayer. Oh God, if she doesn't forgive me, don't even give me the strength to return home. The moment the aircraft left the ground, I realized there was no turning back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't traveling for a royal event. I wasn't flying for business. I wasn't attending an international meeting. I was crossing thousands of miles, only to stand in front of the woman whose heart I had broken. The seat beside me was occupied by an elderly man. He smiled and asked, "Traveling for work?" I smiled politely, then quietly replied, "No, I'm traveling to ask someone for forgiveness." He looked at me for a few seconds, then said something I will never forget. "Son, some journeys change your destination, but the journey to say sorry changes your soul." His words stayed with me. Long after our conversation ended, I leaned my head against the window, watching the clouds beneath us. Everyone around me was watching movies, listening to music, or sleeping peacefully, but my heart refused to rest. Every minute, another memory found its way back to me. I remembered the first day we met. You were wearing a simple white dress. There was nothing extraordinary about that day, except you. You smiled at me, and somehow that smile became the beginning of everything. I still remember how nervous I was, even though people always believed I feared nothing. Standing in front of kings, world leaders, and powerful businessmen had never made my heart race. But standing in front of you was different. You looked into my eyes, and without saying a single word, you made me forget the entire world. I often wonder, did you know that from that very moment, my heart had already chosen you? Or was I the only one who believed destiny had introduced us for a reason? Hours passed. The cabin lights became dim. Most passengers had fallen asleep, but sleep stayed far away from me. I reached into my wallet. Hidden behind my cards was the smallest photograph I had ever carried. Your picture. No one knew it was there. Not even my closest friends, because some memories are too precious to show the world. I looked at your smile, then softly whispered, "Baby, I'm coming. I only hope I'm not too late." I carefully placed the photograph back, closed my eyes, and silently prayed that somewhere on the other side of this journey, you would still have one small place left in your heart for me. Several hours later, the captain announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we will be landing in America shortly." The entire cabin came alive. Passengers fastened their seat belts. Some looked excited. Some looked relieved. But I was terrified. Not because of the landing, but because I had no idea what would happen after it. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times. Sometimes I imagined you running toward me with tears in your eyes. Sometimes I imagined you looking at me, then quietly walking away. Every possible ending had played inside my mind, except the one destiny had already written. The aircraft touched the runway. A gentle applause echoed through the cabin. Everyone smiled. Their journey had ended. Mine was only beginning. I slowly stood up, picked up my small travel bag, and walked toward the exit. Every step felt heavier than the last. As the airport doors opened, a cool breeze touched my face. I took a deep breath, looked around, and whispered to myself, I'm finally here. Thousands of people walked in every direction. Families embraced each other. Friends laughed together. Children ran into their parents' arms. The entire airport was filled with reunions, yet I was searching for only one person. You. I had your address. I knew where you lived. I could have gone there immediately, but my heart stopped me. What if you weren't ready to see me? What if my sudden arrival only reopened wounds that had finally healed? I didn't want to become another reason for your pain. So I made a decision. Before standing at your door, I wanted to know one thing, whether your heart still remembered my name. I walked outside the airport. The cold American air felt completely different from the warmth of Dubai. I looked at the sky, then smiled sadly, because no matter how different the countries were, the same moon still watched over both of us. I quietly said, Baby, I've crossed oceans, left my pride behind, and traveled across the world for one reason. I didn't come here to change your decision. I came here hoping you'll give me one chance to say the words I should have said a long time ago. I'm sorry. I booked a suite at one of the finest hotels in the city. Not because I cared about luxury. Luxury had always been a part of my life. But that night, even the most beautiful room in America felt empty. Because the only person I wanted to talk to was thousands of miles away, or perhaps only a few streets away. I stood beside the large glass window. The city lights stretched endlessly before me. Cars moved through the streets. People laughed. Restaurants were full. Life continued as if nothing had happened. Yet my world had stopped the day you walked away. My phone rang. It was my assistant from Dubai. Sir, tomorrow's board meeting has been postponed because everyone is waiting for you. I closed my eyes, then calmly replied, Cancel every meeting for the next few days. He remained silent for a moment. Before asking, Sir, is everything all right? I smiled, but my smile carried more pain than happiness. Everything in my life is perfect except my heart. He understood and quietly ended the call. I placed my phone on the table, walked toward my suitcase, and carefully opened the smallest pocket. Inside it was a tiny velvet box, the same box I had been carrying from Dubai. I slowly opened it. Inside was a simple necklace. You once saw it in a jewelry store. You smiled and said, It's beautiful, but one day I want to earn something like this myself. You never asked me to buy it. You never demanded expensive gifts. That was one of the reasons I fell in love with you. You loved me, not my name, not my wealth, not my position, just me. I bought the necklace the very next day, planning to surprise you. But before I could give it to you, we lost each other for months. That little box remained unopened, waiting for the right moment, just like my heart still waiting for you. I looked at it, then quietly whispered, Baby, I still brought it with me. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise, not because I had slept well, but because I had hardly slept at all. Today was the day I would finally stand in front of you, I stood in front of the mirror. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about how I looked. I was only wondering, would you still recognize the man you once loved? Or would I now look like a complete stranger? I picked up the necklace, placed it carefully inside my coat pocket, took one deep breath, and quietly left the hotel. A black luxury car was waiting outside. The driver respectfully opened the door. "Good morning, sir. Where would you like to go?" I slowly handed him a piece of paper. The paper carried only one address. "Your address." As the car drove through the streets, every traffic light felt longer than the last. Every minute increased my heartbeat. I had spoken in front of thousands of people. I had negotiated billion-dollar agreements. I had represented my country at important events. Yet today, the thought of standing in front of one woman made my hands tremble. After nearly 40 minutes, the driver gently slowed the car. He looked at me through the mirror, then softly said, "Sir, we've arrived." My heartbeat almost stopped. I looked through the window. There it was, the place where you now lived, the place I had imagined 1,000 times during my journey from Dubai. I quietly stepped out of the car. The cold breeze touched my face. I stood across the street, looking toward your home. Every light, every window, every small detail suddenly became precious. Because somewhere behind one of those windows was the woman I had crossed the world to see. I placed my hand over my heart, closed my eyes for a second, and whispered, "Baby, I've finally reached you. Now all I need is the courage to knock on your door." I stood across the street for almost 20 minutes. The house was right in front of me. The only thing separating us was a narrow road. Yet it felt as though an entire lifetime stood between us. I had crossed continents without fear, but I couldn't gather the courage to take a few more steps. Every heartbeat reminded me why I had come. Not to prove my love, not to win an argument, not to bring you back by force. I had come to apologize. I had come to admit that I was wrong. The security guard standing near the entrance noticed me. He politely walked toward me. "Sir, are you looking for someone?" I smiled gently. "Yes." He looked at the paper in my hand, then looked back at me. "Do you have an appointment?" I lowered my eyes for a moment, then quietly replied, "No." He remained respectful. "I'm sorry, sir. Without permission, I can't let anyone inside." I nodded. "I understand." He walked back to his place. I didn't argue because I knew he was only doing his duty. I stood there once again, looking at the same house, wondering if you were inside, wondering if you were smiling, wondering if you had forgotten me. I reached into my pocket, took out my phone. Your number was still saved, exactly the way it had always been. I stared at your name for several minutes. My thumb moved toward the call button, then stopped. What if another voice answered? What if you had changed your number? What if you simply rejected the call? I locked my phone again, not because I was afraid of hearing your answer. I was afraid there would be no answer at all. A cold wind passed by. I buttoned my coat and slowly walked toward a small coffee shop across the street. I chose a table beside the window. From there, I could still see your house. The waiter came over. "What would you like to order, sir?" I smiled politely, "Just black coffee." A few minutes later, the coffee was placed in front of me. It slowly became cold, because I never even touched it. My eyes remained fixed on your house. People came and went, cars stopped, children played nearby. Life moved normally, but time around me had completely stopped. Hours passed. The sun slowly disappeared behind the buildings. Streetlights began to glow. I looked at my watch, then quietly whispered, "Maybe today isn't the day." I stood up, paid the bill, walked outside, looked at your house one last time, then returned to the hotel. That night, I didn't switch on the television. I didn't answer any business calls. I simply sat beside the window, holding the necklace in my hand, looking at the city lights and praying that tomorrow would be different. I woke up with a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in America, hope felt stronger than fear. I got ready quietly, picked up the small velvet box, placed it inside my coat, and left the hotel. This time, I didn't ask the driver to stop across the street. I asked him to stop 2 blocks away. I wanted to walk the remaining distance. Every step reminded me of the promise I had made to myself. Today, I wouldn't return without trying. When I reached your street, everything looked peaceful. The trees moved gently with the wind. Birds filled the morning with their songs. It was hard to believe that the biggest battle of my life was about to begin. I stopped outside your home, took a deep breath, and slowly walked toward the entrance. Before I could ring the bell, the front door opened. My heartbeat stopped. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Someone stepped outside, but it wasn't you. It was an elderly woman. She smiled kindly. "Can I help you?" I politely greeted her. "I'm looking for someone who lives here." She listened carefully as I spoke your name. Her smile slowly faded. She looked at me for a long moment, then softly asked, "You came from Dubai, didn't you?" I looked at her in surprise. "How do you know?" She smiled sadly. "Because she told me one day, if a man ever comes all the way from Dubai asking for me, please don't send him away without listening to him." Those words shook my heart. You had spoken about me. Even after everything, the elderly woman slowly opened the gate. "You've traveled a very long way. Come inside." As I stepped through the gate, my hands began trembling again, because I knew with every step I took, I was getting closer to the moment that could either heal my heart forever or break it beyond repair. I slowly stepped inside the house. Every step felt heavier than the last. The elderly woman closed the door behind me. Then she looked at me with kind eyes. "I've been waiting for this day." I looked at her in surprise. "Waiting for me?" She nodded. "She always believed that one day you would come." Those words stopped my heartbeat. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. For months, I had blamed myself, thinking you had forgotten me, thinking you no longer wanted to see me. But now, for the first time, hope returned. She asked me to sit down. The living room was simple, peaceful. There were family photographs on the walls, fresh flowers on the table, and a silence that somehow reminded me of you. She brought me a cup of coffee, then sat across from me. "I know who you are." I smiled politely. "But today I don't want anyone to know my name." She smiled. "Don't worry. Today you're not sitting here because of your name. You're sitting here because of your heart." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she quietly opened a small wooden drawer. She took out a white envelope. and placed it in front of me. She left this with me almost a year ago. She told me, if he ever comes looking for me, give him this before he sees me. My hands began shaking. I slowly picked up the envelope. Your handwriting was still the same. The same beautiful letters. The same way you used to write my name. I carefully opened it. Inside was only one page. The first line made my eyes fill with tears. If you're reading this, it means your heart finally brought you back to me. I couldn't continue reading for a few seconds. My vision had become blurry. I wiped my tears, then continued. I never hated you. I was only hurt. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I was tired of pretending that my silence didn't hurt. Every word felt like a knife, because everything you had written was true. I had been too busy, too proud, too confident that you would always stay, until the day you quietly walked away. I folded the letter carefully, held it against my heart, and whispered, "I'm sorry." The elderly woman looked at me, then softly said, "She still hasn't forgotten you." Those 6 words gave me more hope than anything I had heard in months. The elderly woman stood up. She walked toward the window, looked outside, then turned back toward me. "She's not home yet." My heartbeat became even faster. When will she come back? She smiled gently. "Very soon." Every minute suddenly felt like an hour. I stood beside the window, looking toward the road. Every passing car made my heart race. Every time footsteps echoed outside. I looked toward the door, hoping it would be you. I had imagined this meeting thousands of times during my flight from Dubai. I had prepared long speeches. I had rehearsed every apology. I had planned every word. But now, standing only moments away from seeing you, I realized I had forgotten every sentence, because real emotions never follow a script. The elderly woman quietly placed her hand on my shoulder. "You don't need perfect words. You only need an honest heart." I smiled through my tears. For the first time in months, I felt understood. I reached into my coat pocket and took out the small velvet box. I opened it slowly. The necklace reflected the sunlight coming through the window. It looked exactly as beautiful as the day I bought it. I gently touched it, then smiled. "I've carried this across oceans. I only hope she'll accept it." The elderly woman looked at the necklace, then looked at me. "I don't think she's waiting for a gift. She's waiting for the man she fell in love with." Before I could answer, the sound of a car stopping outside filled the silence. Both of us turned toward the window. A black car had stopped in front of the house. My heart almost stopped beating. The driver's door opened. Then another door slowly opened. Someone stepped out. I couldn't see the face clearly. Only a familiar figure walking toward the front gate. My hands began trembling. My eyes filled with tears. After crossing thousands of miles, leaving Dubai, hiding my identity, taking a commercial flight, and carrying months of regret inside my heart, the moment I had dreamed about every single night was finally standing only a few steps away. The front door slowly opened. You stood there for a few seconds. Neither of us spoke. Months of silence, pain, and unanswered questions filled the space between us. I slowly walked toward you. Tears filled my eyes. I lowered my head and quietly said, "Baby, I didn't come from Dubai to America to change your decision. I came only to ask for your forgiveness. I know I was late, I know I hurt you, but not a single day passed without missing you." I took the small velvet box from my pocket, held it in my hands, then smiled through my tears. This gift was always yours, I just never found the courage to give it to you. You looked at me with trembling eyes,